next hadith he says that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, "Ma minkum min ahadin illa sayukallimuhu rabbuhu laysa baynahu wa baynahu tarjuman." The Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, there is not a single person from amongst you except on the day of judgment Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will speak to him. And how will Allah speak? Laysa baynahu wa baynahu tarjuman. There will be no translator between you and the Lord of the Arsh and Kursi. Now in this hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam has highlighted a reality which will take place. And this reality that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam has highlighted is what you and I call as accountability. Accountability will take place on the day of judgment. And before this, there will be another form of accountability which will take place in the grave. And every individual, believer, non-believer, whether he died on land, whether he died inside the ocean, whether he was eaten by lions and his remains are in the stomach of some animal, every one of us, this accountability will take place, known as the accountability of the barzakh, or known to you and I as the accountability of the grave, in which every one of us will have to answer a few questions. Question number one, Man Rabbuk? Who is your Lord? Question number two, Ma Dinuk? What is your religion? Question number three, Man Hadha Rajul? Each and every one of us will be shown Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and we will be asked, who is this man that was sent from amongst you? My young friends, those of us from amongst us who lived a life of obedience, who lived a life trying their utmost best to follow the teachings of Islam and the teachings of Qur'an, those from amongst us didn't take this world as the final abode. They took the akhirah as the final abode. They took the Jannat of Allah as the final abode. When the angels Munkar and Nakir pose these questions to us, without hesitation, the words will flow from our lips. Rabbi Allah, my Lord is Allah. Dini al-Islam, my religion is Islam. Hadha rajul huwa Sayyiduna Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And this man is none other than Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. However, my young friends, and when he says this, a caller will call out, فَفْرِشُوا لَهُ مِنَ الْجَنَّةِ وَالْبِسُوهُ مِنَ الْجَنَّةِ وَافْتَحُوا لَهُ بَابًا إِلَى الْجَنَّةِ. Spread a bedding of paradise for him. Give him the clothes of paradise and open the doors towards paradise. His grave will be widened as far as the eye can see, and the sweet smell of paradise will enter his grave, and he will sleep like a groom, enjoying the benefits of Allah right till the day of resurrection. However, my young friends, if you and I, or those from amongst us, didn't live a life of obedience, we took this world as our final abode, and we lived a life fulfilling our desires one after the other, and we disobeyed Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, in spite of the fact that these questions are very simple. Man Rabbuk? Ma Dinuk? Man Hadha Rajul? My friends, when the angels Munkar and Nakir will come to us inside the grave, you will say, Ha ha la adri, I do not know who Allah is. Ha ha la adri, I do not know what my deen is. Ha ha la adri, I do not know who this individual is. And a caller will call out, Ke an kadhaba abdi, my servant has spoken a lie. فَفْرِشُوهُ لَهُ مِنَ النَّارِ وَالْبِسُوهُ مِنَ النَّارِ وَافْتَحُوا لَهُ بَابًا إِلَى النَّارِ. Give him the clothes of Jahannam. Give him a bedding of Jahannam. and open the door towards Jahannam, and the hot and scorching heat of Jahannam will enter his grave, and the grave will embrace him with such force that his ribs and bones of one side will pierce into the other side, and this punishment and different types of punishment will continue right till the day of resurrection. I mean, just very recently, the story is only a few days old. I'm sure you've already come across it on the internet. The young Omani boy, his father buried him. After 3 hours, they took the body out of the grave. In spite of the fact that he was 18 years of age, they say it's on the internet, his black hair has turned white and his face is disfigured. And the ulama say this is as a result of the accountability in the grave, and this is the punishment in the grave. So this is accountability will take place inside the barzakh, inside the grave, irrespective of where you died. In this hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu is talking about the second accountability will take place on the plane of resurrection. يُحْشَرَ النَّاسُ عَلَىٰ أَرْضٍ بَيْضَاءَ أَفْرَاءٍ. My young friends, everybody will be made to assemble on a flat white plain. It will be the greatest congregation ever seen. There will be no mountains, there will be no hills, there will be no mounds. The earth will be stretched just like rubber and elastic is stretched. And every human being will be on the plane of resurrection. Everyone from amongst the humankind, from amongst the jinn kind, and from amongst the animal kind. And this is where the second accountability will take place. Sayyidina Adi ibn Hatim relates from Rasulullah, "Ke laysa baynahu wa baynahu tarjuman." And how will this accountability take place? You know, at this moment in time, everything that you and I have received from Allah has always been indirect. We've received it through the Anbiya alayhi salatu wassalam, who would receive revelations direct from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and sometimes through an angel. Everything that we receive so far has come through revelation, has come through the Anbiya alayhi salam. So on that day, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is making clear that on that day you will not receive anything through the Anbiya alayhi salam like you have in the dunya. No. On that day, سَيُكَلِّمُهُ رَبَّهُ لَيْسَ بَيْنَهُ وَبَيْنَهُ تَرْجَمَانٌ. Allah will speak to you without an aid of an angel. Allah will speak to you without the Anbiya alayhi salam, without Rasulullah. You as an individual will come and stand before the Lord of the Arsh and Kursi. This hadith of Rasulullah states, Tarjuman. Another hadith of Rasulullah states, لَيْسَ بَيْنَهُ وَبَيْنَ اللَّهِ حِجَابٌ. There will be no barrier between you and Allah. There will be no veil between you and Allah. There will be no wall between you and Allah. You will come on the plane of a resurrection. This is every individual, and you will stand before the greatest of all beings. What do you think will become of you, my young friends? You know, when you and I are invited by a king, and if there's accountability, you know what? Even our pishab will come out. We will begin to urinate. And here, this is no ordinary being. This is the greatest of all beings. He is the Almighty. He is the most powerful. You know, at this moment in dunya, there's a few billion people. And look how big the dunya is. How many places in the dunya that have been undiscovered? There is place in this dunya for another 20 billion without any difficulty whatsoever. Yeah, what is this dunya in comparison to the akhirah? What is this dunya in comparison to the sun? This dunya in comparison to the sun, you can fit 100 planets like this inside the sun. Then the sun is only one star in the galaxy. In our solar system, look how many planets there are. Look how many stars there are. There are billions and billions of stars. There are stars which are thousands of times bigger than the sun within our solar system, within these galaxies. Then you have billions and billions of galaxies within the universe. And then all this that you see is within the first heaven. Then after the first heaven, you have the second heaven, you have the third, you have the fourth, you have the fifth, you have sixth and seventh heavens, like the the layers of an onion. After the 7 heavens, you have the kursi of Allah. The kursi of Allah in comparison to the 7 heavens, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, is like a ring in a desert. Throw a ring in the Sahara desert. What is a small ring which you put on your finger in comparison to the Sahara desert? My friends, there is no significance. The 7 heavens in comparison to the kursi of Allah is like a ring in a desert. After this you have the arsh of Allah. The kursi of Allah in comparison to the arsh of Allah is like a ring in a desert. Allahu Akbar. After the arsh of Allah, you have the angels carrying the arsh. At this moment in time, you have 4 angels carrying the arsh. On that day, when Allah will be angry like never before, the Qur'an says, وَيَحْمِلُ أَرْشَ رَبِّكَ فَوْقَهُمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ ثَمَانِيَةً. 8 angels will carry the arsh of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Their heads are in the 7th heaven, their feet are in the lowest earth. And you will come and you will stand before the Lord of the arsh and kursi, when even the likes of Ibrahim Khalilullah will begin to say, Nafsi, 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 that today I cannot go near Allah because Allah is angry today. Allah has never been angry like this before. Allah will never be angry like this again. Musa will say the same. Isa will say the same. Ismail will say the same. Ishaq will say the same. When the Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam, who are free from sin, who have spent an entire life worshipping Allah, who have spent an entire life pleasing Allah, who have spent an entire life doing a'mal salihah, they do not have a wrong to their name. They do not have a sin to their name. When they will be terrified standing before the Almighty Allah, tell me, my young friends, when you come on that day and you stand before Him and there will be no barrier, there will be no veil, there will be no curtain, what will become of you and I? And on that day, my young friends, you will not be able to deny anything. How can you deny anything when the Lord of the Arsh and Kursi, He was watching every moment of your life. He was watching every second of your life. He saw you commit wrong. He saw the place that you commit wrong. He knew of the second that you commit wrong. He knew of the wrong that you committed. There is nothing that can be concealed from Allah. There is nothing that can hide from Allah. وَإِن تَكُ مِثْقَالَ حَبَّةٍ مِّنْ خَرْدَلٍ فَتَكُنْ فِي صَخْرَةٍ أَوْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ أَوْ فِي الْأَرْضِ يَأْتِ بِهَا اللَّهُ إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَطِيفٌ خَبِيرٌ. Even if there's something equal to an atom, even if there's something equal to a barley grain, and this is inside, some rock, or is inside some place within the universe, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows of it, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring it. فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَى وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَى. Any good that you did, He will bring it forth on that day. Any evil that you committed, He will bring it forth on that day. Let's say perchance you denied it and you said to Allah, oh Allah, you were standing directly before Him, and Allah asked you, why did you commit this sin of zina? Why did you backbite? And you began to deny and said, oh Allah, no, I didn't do it. You know what? On that day, Allah will bring the kiram and katibin. Ya ayyuhal insan, ma gharraka bi rabbikal kareem, alladhi khalaqak fasawwaka fa'adalak fi ayyi suratin ma sha'a rakkabak, kalla bal tukadhibuna bid-din wa inna alaykum lahafidhin kiraman katibin ya'lamuna ma taf'alun. Allah will bring the kiram and katibin, angels that were to your right hand side and to your left hand side. They are with you all the times. Whatever good that you do, they record this. Whatever evil that you commit, they record it by the second, by the billionth of a second. They write this down. Let us say on that day, you began to deny and you said to Allah, oh Allah, even the kiram and katibin are lying. You know what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will do? He will make the earth speak on which you committed sin. You read this surah many a times. إِذَا زُلْزِلَتِ الْأَرْضُ زِلْزَالَهَا. When the earth is shaken, a mighty shaken. My young friends, it will not be a 5 on the Richter scale. It will not be a 10 on the Richter scale. This shaking will be so powerful that even your Richter scale will not be able to read this reading. وَأَخْرَجَتِ الْأَرْضُ أَثْقَالَهَا. And the earth will take out its burden. It will throw out the dead. It will throw out the gold and silver. And when mankind sees this, he will say, وَقَالَ الْإِنسَانُ مَا لَهَا. What is happening around us? What has happened to the earth? Why is it throwing out the dead? Why is it throwing out the gold and silver? يَوْمَئِذٍ تُحَدِّثُ أَخْبَارَهَا بِأَنَّ رَبَّكَ أَوْحَى لَهَا. That is the day even the earth will have a tongue. It will begin to speak. It will relay its information, because the Lord of the Arsh and Kursi will inspire it to speak. Will inspire it to speak. The earth will begin to say, oh Allah, indeed Abdullah committed this sin. He committed it in Kunupia. He committed it next to Managrove Masjid. Allah, this was the time, this was the day, this was the second. And if you still deny, oh Allah, that the earth is speaking a lie, now Allah will go for the kill. And the Qur'an says, يَوْمَ تَشْهَدُ عَلَيْهِمْ أَلْسِنَتُهُمْ وَأَيْدِيهِمْ وَأَرْجُلُهُمْ بِمَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. My friends, you will not even have control over your own tongue. Your own tongue will begin to speak, and your own tongue will acknowledge the wrong that you have done. And you will not be able to believe this. You will be seeing this. You will be listening to this. The tongue will testify against you. All of a sudden, your hands will begin to speak. The very hands that are here and now, Allah will give them the ability to speak. And the hands will begin to speak. Your feet will begin to speak. And they will testify before the Lord of the Arsh and Kursi, Ki Allah, this individual indeed committed this sin at this time and at this place. This is the reality Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is talking about. And thereafter Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says in the hadith that when you stand before the Almighty Allah, he said, فَيَنْظُرْ أَيْمَنْ مِنْ فَلَا يَرَى إِلَّا مَا قَدَّمْ. When you're standing before the Almighty Allah, what will you see? You will see on your right hand side all the good deeds that you performed in the dunya. When you look to your right, you will see everything that you perform. وَيَنْظُرْ أَشْحَمْ مِنْ فَلَا يَرَى إِلَّا مَا قَدَّمْ. When you look towards your left hand side, all the gunas, all the sins that you committed in the dunya, they will be towards your left. And when you look in front, فَيَنْظُرْ بَيْنَ يَدَيْهِ فَلَا يَرَى إِلَّا النَّارِ تِلْقَى وَجْهِهِ. And in front of him, he will see Jahannam. He will see the fire of hell. And the fire of hell will be angry like never before. So what did Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam say? He said in this hadith, فَاتَّقُوا النَّارِ وَلَوْ بِشِقِّ تَمَرَةٍ فَمَنْ لَمْ يَجِدْ فَبِكَلِمَةٍ طَيِّبَةٍ. Said, O Muslimano, فَاتَّقُوا النَّارِ. Save yourselves from the fire of hell. How? وَلَوْ بِشِكِّ. Look at the mercy of Rasulullah. وَلَوْ بِشِكِّ تَمَرَةٍ. He did not leave any one of us. He said, وَلَوْ بِشِكِّ تَمَرَةٍ. Even if you give in sadaqah or in the path of Allah, even if you give part of a date. Now the word shiq in Arabic means half of anything. Now in this particular hadith, it's not necessarily that it means that you give half a day and only a half a day will be accepted from you. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, وَلَوْ بِشِقِّ تَمْرَةٍ. You know what? You are so poor. You are so poor that you have nothing other than just a little piece of date which you can afford to give. In the path of Allah, you can give to the fuqara and the needy. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, save yourselves from the fire of hell by doing even this deed, because by doing this deed, you'll realize the consequence of this deed in the akhirah. You know, to you and I, sometimes we feel ashamed, yeah? You know what? That when it comes to giving, you know, we feel ashamed. We always feel that we have to give a large amount. We feel ashamed to give a little. You know, we need to change this attitude and change this type of mentality. Because you never know which deed of yours pleases Allah and which deed of yours displeases Allah. In another hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, إن العبد ليتكلم بالكلمة من رضوان الله لا يلقي لها بالا يرفع الله بها درجات. Sometimes, you know what? A human being utters one word. You know, maybe he's talking with his friend and his friend is disheartened maybe, you know, a calamity has befallen on him, and you've uttered one word, and this one word, as a result of this one word you uttered, you brought peace to his heart, you brought a smile on his face. So Rasulullah said, a servant of Allah, sometimes he utters one word from the pleasure of Allah. He doesn't realize the consequence of that one word which he uttered. You know, the smile that he brought on his friend's face. That one word is so powerful in the eyes of Allah and so dear in the eyes of Allah. Yet as a result of this, Allah elevates his ranks in paradise. وَإِنَّ الْعَبْلِ يَتَكَلَّمُ مِنْ سَخَطِ اللَّهِ. And sometimes, you know what? A human being, he utters a word, and he doesn't think much of the word that he's uttered. And this happens many a time. You know, sometimes as young guys, we sit amongst our circles, and sometimes, you know, we let rip, or we begin to take the mick out of one another, or joke about our friends, not realizing that what we're saying is having a great impact on the heart of this Muslim brother, and it's hurting him. And we continue doing this. You know, we don't realize the consequence of this one word. Rasulullah said, such is the power of that one word that you uttered, which hurt that believer. Yet as a result of this, Allah throws you and lowers your ranks in Jahannam. You never know, my young friends, which deed of yours may please Allah. You know, in another hadith, Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Man tasaddaqa bi'adli tamratin min kasbin tayyib." Whoever gives a day, a sadaqah, or anything equivalent to one day. What is one day? Who from amongst us here doesn't have the ability to give one date, one kujur, a sadaqah to a per person? By the grace of Allah, you know, my friends in Trinidad, you need to recognize these blessings of Allah upon you. I need to recognize these blessings of Allah upon me. How well Allah keeps us, how well we eat, how well we dress, the beautiful houses that we live in, the beautiful cars that we drive. There are our Muslim brothers around the globe at this moment in time who, my friend, are dying because they do not have a single morsel. They are dying because they don't have a single morsel. They are selling their imans just so that they can get a morsel of food to provide for their children. So how blessed we are. Rasulullah said, whoever donates just one kujur or equivalent to a kujur, min kasbin tayyib, the condition is that whatever he gives has to be halal, from halal earnings. فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala la yaqbalu illa tayyib. The only thing Allah accepts is halal, pure. He says when he donates this and gives this as sadaqah, فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ يَتَقَبَّلُهَا بِيَمِينِهِ ثُمَّ يُرَبِّيهَا لِصَاحِبِهَا كَمَا يُرَبِّي أَحَدُكُمْ فَلُوهُ حَتَّى تَكُونَ مِثْلَ الْجَبَلِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you know, this sadaqah that you gave this to this faqir and poor person, this one day that you give him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now begins to look after this date. Just as one of you begins to look after his fowl, you know, the offspring of a horse or the offspring of any animal, when it is born, you know, to your animal, how you begin to look after the animal, how much care you take care, and you nurture it, you feed it, and slowly, you know, this animal grows into, you know, a big animal. It grows into a horse. You know, if it was a camel, it grows into a big camel. You know, you look after it and you look after it. Rasulullah said Allah does exactly the same with this one kujur that you give. You didn't think much of it when you gave it, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala looked after this one kujur, and he kept on looking after it, kept on looking after it, so much so that when you come on the day of judgment, you will find that the reward of that one kujur will be as big as a mountain. Big as a mountain on the day of judgment. My friends, never look down upon anything that you do. You never know the consequence of that action, good or bad. It is so possible that one good deed that you perform may elevate your ranks in paradise, and it is so possible that one wrong that you committed in your eyes may not be big, but it may be so big in the eyes of Allah that Allah may hold you accountable on the day of judgment, and as a result throw you inside Jahannam. Look at Bishr Habi rahmatullahi alayh. Bishr Habi rahmatullahi alayh, who was from amongst the awliyaullah, but before he became from amongst the awliyaullah, Bishr Habi rahmatullahi alayh used to drink by day and he used to drink by night. He used to take alcohol, and he himself says, you know what, one night I had too much to drink. And he was walking and roaming in the streets, when all of a sudden he came across a piece of paper. In that state, he saw a piece of paper, and he picked this paper up. It had the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala written on it. And he thought to himself, you know what? This paper is dirty. He wiped the piece of paper, he cleaned it, and he put it inside his pocket out of respect for the name of Allah. And he says, you know what? At that time, the only thing I possessed was 2 dirhams. This was my, earnings. I did not possess anything more than 2 dirhams. So the thought crossed my mind, let me go to a perfume seller, an itar seller, and I will buy the best perfume to perfume this piece of paper which had the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala written on it. So he went to a perfume seller. He purchased the best perfume that he could buy with 2 dirhams. And Bishr Hafi, he perfumed this piece of paper. He went home, and out of respect for the name of Allah, he put it on a high place. He says, I went to sleep that night, and I saw a dream that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was saying to me, oh Bishr, we will elevate your name in the dunya as well as the akhirah, just like you took care of my name in the dunya. You took care of my name in the dunya, I will take care of your name in the dunya as well as the akhirah. I will elevate it just like you elevated my name. I will elevate it in the dunya, and I will elevate it in the akhirah. And indeed Allah elevated his name. He became such. After this he turned to Allah, and he became such that he would walk barefooted. This is why he was called Bishr Hafi. Hafi in Arabic means barefooted. Wherever he would walk barefooted. Allah raised his rank so high that wherever he would walk, if there was dirt or filth on the way, before he placed his foot there, the earth would open up and swallow the filth. And the night he died, he was seen in a dream. Somebody saw him in a dream, and Allah was saying, oh Bishr, the day I took your soul, there was no one more dear to me than you. Look at where he was. Where he was. Drinking from day and night. And look at that one deed. He picked a piece of paper up which had the name of Allah. He cleaned, he perfumed, he gave it respect. This was so great in the eyes of Allah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala overlooked all the wrongs that he did. So my young friends, we do not know what good will benefit us and what wrong will harm us. This is why at the end of this hadith, and I'll just explain briefly and conclude, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, look at the mercy of Allah and mercy of Rasulullah. That Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, you know what? If somebody doesn't even have a piece of date, it's alright for you and me that Allah is blessed and that we can give so much in the path of Allah. What about those poor people who don't even have a morsel for themselves? What they're going to give? What they're going to give? So Rasulullah and Allah didn't even leave them. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, فَمَنْ لَمْ يَجِدْ فَبِكَلِمَةٍ طَيِّبَةٍ. Whoever cannot even give a piece of date, فَبِكَلِمَةٍ طَيِّبَةٍ, just say a good word, one good word, even this will save you from the fire of hell. The poor came to complain. Last hadith and I'll conclude. The poor came to complain to Rasulullah, and they said, ذَهَبَ أَهْلُ الدُّثُورِ بِالْأُجُورِ. A messenger of Allah, the rich people, they've taken all the reward. They've taken all the reward. Why? Because Ya Rasulullah, they fast just like us. They pray just like us. But O Messenger of Allah, they're able to give sadaqah because of the wealth that Allah has given them, and we're not able to give sadaqah. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to the poor, okay, hasn't Allah given you something as a result of which you can also receive the reward of sadaqah? So they said, what? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, inna bi kulli tasbihatin sadaqatun wa kulli takbiratin sadaqatun wa kulli tahlilatin sadaqun amrun bil ma'ruf wa nahyun anil munkari sadaqatun. That every la ilaha illallah, you will receive the reward of sadaqah. Every Allahu Akbar, you will receive the reward of sadaqah. Every time you enjoin good and forbid evil, you will receive the reward of sadaqah. Balki Rasulullah went as far as saying, وَفِي بُدِ أَحَدِكُمْ صَدَقَةً. When you come and you as a man, you fulfill your desire with your wife, for even this you will receive the reward of sadaqah. And the Sahaba were gobsmacked. Ya Rasulullah, one of us comes and he fulfills his desire with his wife. For even this, Allah will give him a reward. Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam asked them, what do you think? If he was to fulfill his desire with a woman other than his wife, will he not receive sin for this and will he not be punished for this? If he will be punished for fulfilling his desire with any woman other than his wife, he will be rewarded for fulfilling his desire with his wife. Look how beautiful the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. I conclude on this note, Allah give us the understanding. My young friends, you never know when you will drop. You know, Shab-e Barat is around the corner. Take advantage. You know, Allah places these nights throughout the year. Shab-e Barat, you have Laylatul Qadr, you have the month of Ramadan, wal Fajr wa layalin ashr, you have the 10 nights of Zil Hijjah, you have the day of Arafah. Allah has spread this throughout the year. You know why? Because Allah is looking for an excuse to forgive you a night and give us paradise. This is why the special mercy of Allah descends in these nights. And Allah asks, هَلْ مِن مُسْتَغْفِرٍ فَأَغْفِرْ لَهُ. Is there anyone seeking forgiveness so I can forgive? Allah give us the tawfiq and understanding, my young friends. You will hear this many a time. It means nothing. The most important thing is action. Allah give me the tawfiq. Allah give you the tawfiq.